Hi, this is Jaykrishnan Nair. I am a faculty member in the Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Bombay, and our work on sequential community mode estimation has been done jointly with my students Shubham Jain, Shreyas Goenka, Divyam Bapna, and my colleague Nikhil Karamchandani. So I'm going to defer motivating the problem formulation considered in this paper and describe straight the problem itself. Right? So consider a population consisting of n individuals, right, as I've illustrated in the figure above. This population has been partitioned into disjoint communities. In other words, each individual belongs to one and exactly one community. Right? In the toy example that I have here, there are three communities which are represented by the colors red, blue, and green. Right? And the learning goal that we consider here is the identification via sequential sampling of the largest community. Right? So you can see in the figure that I have here that there are more red individuals than green individuals and blue individuals, and so therefore the largest community is the red community. So one additional dimension of our problem formulation is as follows. The population is also partitioned into a certain finite collection of sampling domains, which we also refer to as boxes. Right? So the way this works is that the learning agent can choose at every instant a box to sample or query from. Right? And when it does so, for example, suppose the learning agent chooses to sample from box I, then a random individual chosen uniformly at random from that box and with replacement gets revealed to the learning agent. And what exactly gets revealed? The sampled individual's identity and its community. Both of these pieces of information get revealed to the learning agent. So for example, suppose that the learning agent chooses box I and this particular green agent gets chosen or sampled, then a unique identifier associated with that individual, for example, its social security number and its community, which is green, these two pieces of information get revealed to the learning agent. The learning agent has a total budget of t queries, so it can t times choose which box to sample an individual from, as I've described before. And at the end of these t samples, it must report its estimate of the largest community. The goal of the learning agent, of course, being to minimize the probability of error. In other words, to minimize the probability that it wrongly estimates the largest community at the end of its budget of t queries. Okay. So having described the problem formulation, let me now state a couple of applications that motivate this problem formulation. The first of these is election polling, right? You can think of different communities as being different political affiliations to various political parties, for example. And so identifying the largest community corresponds to identifying the most popular political party, right? And the different boxes might correspond to different states or different geographical locations, right? From which individuals can be sampled from. Right? Another somewhat contemporary example that motivates this problem is the estimation of the dominant strain of, say, a virus. Right? So in that case, different communities would correspond to different strains of the virus. Boxes or sampling domains would correspond to different, let's say, geographical regions within which one would sample, infected individuals. Right? Now, at first glance, the problem that I've just described might look like a multi-armed bandit problem, right? With the different communities corresponding to arms, and somehow the task of identifying the largest community might look like the task of identifying the best arm in a multi-armed bandit problem, right? But there are at least two dimensions in which the problem that I've described is different from that of a classical multi-armed bandit problem. The first lies with respect to sampling control. Right? In a multi-arm bandit problem, one can choose which arm to pull at every instant. In this case, the learning agent cannot sample from communities directly. It must in turn sample boxes that it can choose. Right? So there is a certain lack of precision of sampling control that we are incorporating on part of the learning agent. And second and more important aspect here is that because we have identity information, the observation sequence in our problem formulation is in fact not IID, unlike the multi-arm bandit problem. right? Specifically, note that because we have identity information, the likelihood of at any point of time encountering an individual or sampling an individual that one has not in fact seen before depends in a non-IID, non-stationary manner on the observation history so far, right? So in that regard, our observation sequence is in fact not IID. So in our paper, we address the problem that I've posed by looking at three special cases, which finally lead up to an analysis of the general case that I've described so far. So the first special case we consider is the so-called mixed community setting, where there's just a single box. So all individuals live within just one box, right? Next, we consider the so-called separated community setting, where each community is in its own box, right? So the learning agent can, in this case, in fact, choose which community to sample from at every sampling epoch. And finally, we consider the so-called community disjoint box setting, where each community is completely contained within a single box, even though one box may contain multiple communities, as again I've illustrated here, right? And it turns out that our algorithms, as well as their analysis corresponding to the community disjoint box setting, also can be extended to the fully general model that I've described earlier, right? Where boxes and communities can be arbitrarily spread across. So let me start off by describing our results for the mixed community setting. Remember, this is the case where there's just a single box, as the figure describes. So there's no sampling control in this special case, right? You just get these T samples, at the end of which the learning agent must make a decision on what it thinks is the largest community. Right? Now, to emphasize the importance of identity information in our problem formulation, we first consider a baseline scenario where the sampling is identityless. In other words, when an individual gets sampled and revealed to the learning agent, its identity is not revealed, but only its community is revealed. Right? So for what this would look like is as follows. Suppose that you first sample that green individual here. All you see from a learning agent standpoint is that a green individual was sampled. Then maybe it learns that a red individual is sampled, then a blue individual. Then it turns out in the example that I'm showing here that the same green individual that was sampled to begin with is in fact sampled again, but the learning agent doesn't know this. It just sees the sequence green, red, blue, green, and so on. Right? So if you think about this, you'll see that the observation sequence in the identity-less case is basically that one gets IID samples from a certain discrete distribution, the elements of which are the different communities, and the probability mass on each community is just what fraction of individuals in the entire population lie in that community. Right? So this is in fact a classical problem where the goal is to simply identify the mode of this distribution. That's what corresponds to the largest community. Right? So the natural algorithm for this simple identity-less sampling thing is that at the end of your T query, simply output the community from which you have seen the largest number of samples. Right? That's in fact the natural thing that one should do in this case. And as one might expect, it is possible to in fact characterize the probability of error under this simple algorithm. Right? So the probability of error is upper bounded as follows, as a constant multiplied by e raised to minus a certain decay rate. So that decay rate that is multiplying e raised to minus t in the exponent is in fact the key focus of our work, given that we are working in this fixed budget type of setting. Right? So to tell you what this decay rate looks like, this decay rate consists of three quantities. Capital N is of course the total population, D1 is the size of the largest community, D2 is the size of the next largest community. Right? So this is what the decay rate looks like for the simple identity-less algorithm, and as you might expect, this decay rate can in fact be shown to be optimal. One can come up with an information theoretic lower bound that says that no algorithm can in fact achieve a decay rate which is in fact better than what I have described here. Right? So the identity-less case is therefore very straightforward. So let me now describe the identity-based sampling case. So in this case, when an individual gets sampled, the learning agent learns not just its community but also its identity. Right? So in this case, it turns out that the right thing to do, so to speak, is to keep track of the number of distinct individuals seen from each community. Right? So the natural algorithm in this case is in fact to output at the end of your T sampling epochs that community from which you have seen the largest number of distinct individuals. Okay. So this algorithm can also be analyzed. The details can be found in the paper. The probability of error upper bound looks structurally similar, constant times e raised to minus t times the decay rate. What is instructive here is to compare this decay rate to the decay rate that we got under identity-less sampling. Right? So you can stare at this for a bit and convince yourself that the decay rate in the identity-based setting is far greater than the decay rate in the identity-less setting. What that implies is that the probability of error decays significantly faster when identity information is available as opposed to the identity-less setting. Right? So our first main takeaway is that identity information actually improves the performance of mode estimation. So a couple of more remarks on the result that I have highlighted here. It turns out that this decay rate characterization is in fact optimal. It matches an information theoretic lower bound of what is achievable under any other algorithm. Right? This particular upper bound itself follows from a coupon collector style argument, and its optimality tells us something about what is the most likely manner in which this optimal algorithm would make an error. Right? So it turns out that an error in community mode estimation is most likely caused because certain individuals from the largest community never get sampled over the entire sampling horizon. All right. So with that, let me move on to the next setting, which is the so-called separated community setting. So in the separated community setting, remember each community lies in its own box, and so the learning agent can choose which community to sample from. So I don't have the time to get into the details in this case, but it turns out that the right algorithms for this setting have this successive elimination style procedure. Right? So specifically our algorithm proceeds in b-1 phases where b is the number of boxes. So the way this works is that you apportion your entire horizon of t pulls across b-1 phases, and at the end of each phase I eliminate from further consideration the community or box that I think is least likely to be the optimal one or the largest one. Right? So in other words, I eliminate the so-called worst looking community at the end of each phase, and at the end of b-1 phases, I have one community left standing and I flag that as the largest community. Now the metric based on which I eliminate communities at the end of each phase is, as before, the number of distinct individuals seen so far. And moreover, within each phase, I simply do a round robin across all of the surviving communities at that particular round. Right? So I cannot get into the details of this construction here. I invite you to take a look at the paper for that. So it turns out that one can again characterize the probability of error under this successive elimination type algorithm. And by comparing it against an information theoretic lower bound, it turns out that the decay rate in our upper bound is in fact optimal. However, up to a certain multiplicative factor which is logarithmic in the number of boxes. Incidentally, this mismatch, right, by a logarithmic factor between the best upper bound and the best lower bound, the information theoretic lower bound, is identical to the mismatch that is also known to occur in the multi-arm bandit problem with a fixed budget. Okay, and as you might expect, the lower bound in this case also uses multi-arm bandit style change of measure arguments, except that the stochastic process over which the change of measure is conducted is different, right? In the multi-arm bandit setting, one is working with an IID process. Here it turns out that one is working with a Markovian observation process. And again, I invite you to take a look at the details in our paper. So finally, let me tell you what we know about the community disjoint setting. It turns out in this case that the right algorithm must combine elements from the preceding two settings that I've described, right? Because the learning task itself has two subtasks. The first being to identify the box containing the largest community, which involves the successive elimination style procedure. And the next part is to identify the largest community from that box. right? So it turns out that even our information theoretic lower bounds in fact highlight that the learning task is dictated, the hardness of the learning task is dictated by the harder of these two subtasks, right? However, it turns out that we don't have as strong a match between our upper bounds and the information theoretic lower bounds as we had before. It turns out that the gap between the two depends on the specific instance that one is considering. But for a certain broad class of instances, we can show that the upper bound of our decay, the decay rate in our upper bound is within a logarithmic factor of the number of boxes of the information theoretic lower bound, right? And the harder of the two subtasks, in other words, the subtask for which matching the upper and the lower bounds are in fact quote unquote more challenging, is in fact subtask A, which is to identify the box containing the largest community. Right? It turns out that the algorithms for the community disjoint setting also generalize naturally to the general, fully general problem formulation, but I won't have the time to get into that at this point. So to conclude, we have presented an online community mode estimation with limited sampling precision on part of the learning agent. We have presented both algorithms as well as information theoretic lower bounds. There are several immediate generalizations that are motivated by our formulation, which includes sampling without replacement from the population, fixed confidence variants rather than the fixed budget variant that we have considered. One can also consider multi-arm bandit problems with the kind of imprecise arm selection model that we have presented here. But perhaps most interestingly, as we describe in more detail in the paper, our limited sampling precision can also be thought of as a privacy preserving measure, right? And so our model is an interesting way of actually capturing the trade-off between privacy and learning efficiency in online learning problems. Thank you.